much close together, and if we factor in, let's convert that to percentages, you see they're neck and neck at this stage.
With a quarter of the vote counted.
That's right, so that's a pretty, we're estimating in.
I'll back Brian on that one.
We're factoring in preferences and two-party preferred booth analysis. That's 9 of 22 booths. Unfortunately, I can't tell you which booths they're from, but that's 9 of the 22 booths. The next seat, lost my screen. I think the next seat we'll have a look at is the seat of Badgerys Creek.
Okay, well, Badgerys Creek, of course, is Anne Cullen's seat, the Chief Secretary.
And that's sort of a highly diverse election. You've got a lot of little tiny booths, and you've got a lot of quite large booths. Now, it's a bit hard without knowing what booths they're from, but you'd expect the Liberal vote to be up early on because you get a lot of those semi-rural booths in. But there's actually quite a few new areas in the electorate. Right, if you have a look at that, if we factor in the preferences and the booths at this point, it's another one that says 50-50. Seems to be quite consistent on this.
I'm going to say the pulse has got it right.
There's some danger of that at this stage, isn't there?
Unfortunately, I can't see what booth that's from, but as I said, you'd expect early on there to be a bit of a swing. It is actually quite interesting that there's been talk for the last week that the swings would be against Labor in Cogra, and that's what we're seeing there.
Yes.
To Labor in Badgerys Creek, and that's what we're seeing there. Yes. So it's quite interesting. Yes. So it must be a fluke to get 3 elections in a row with 50% after preferences. I think another.
We'll start to worry if we see 6 in a row, I think.
Yeah. Well, probabilities. I think we'll try and have a look at the seat of Camden next, which is, of course, is probably the key seat in this election. It's the sort of seat that whoever wins this seat is likely to win government. Well, that's what we thought so far. Well, what have we got here? Well, at this stage, Liz Kernahan's way ahead on the primary vote. I think if let's try and convert that to percentages. Again, you can see her ahead. Now, let's try and factor in the booths and the preferences on this. Well, it's much closer after preferences. It's suggesting the Liberals retain.
Yes.
Now, the interesting thing there was the AGB McNair poll this week was suggesting the Liberals as high as 59%.
Yes.
A lot of people suggested that was quite optimistic, but there was a lot of talk that Labor were not doing well. Well, it looks like Labor haven't won that seat on those figures, but they certainly didn't do as well as the AGB McNair poll.
And I would expect the Labor figures to favour Mrs Kernahan rather than the other way. So
it's very hard to actually do booth by booth analysis in seats like Badgerys Creek and Camden in some senses. In Badgerys Creek, there's a new booth. There's a suburb called Claremont Meadows, which didn't even exist last time. And there's 3 or 4 areas like that in Camden. There's 8,500 new voters. There's whole suburbs there. There was no one voting last time, and suddenly there's 6,000 to 7,000 houses there. You know, it's quite remarkable.
Is there any danger of that upsetting your booth-by-booth comparison, though?
It can, but that sort of figure is matching what we all thought it would be on the night, that there would be some sort of, the Liberal Party were doing quite well. I think see if we've got any figures for Maitland, of course.
Maitland, of course, is where Tony Keating was trying to wrest it off the gentleman we spoke to just a short time ago.
Well, this is one where our matching booth analysis will come in quite handy.
10% swing.
If we convert that to percentages. Now, what you're seeing in Maitland is the first booths tend to come from rural electorates, you know, rural areas up sort of around Dungog and Stroud. When you factor in that it comes from those booths, the Labor Party position improves, but we're still seeing a swing of, it looks like, about 4% to the Liberal Party in that seat. Again, that was what was suggested would occur, that the sitting member would build up his personal support. It's very important in a seat like Maitland, which is a regional centre, that the sitting member build the personal support, and I think the government also spends an awful lot of money in the area.
Right. Okay, have you got enough seats at the moment?
I think we should have a look at the trends.
Yes, I think it would be a good idea too. So if we can have a look at the statewide trend at this stage. We have a graphic that can show us the primary vote as it's going at the moment across the state.
Okay, we've got the ALP on 42.3, and we've got, if you combine the Liberal and the National Party vote, they're up there around 50.5. Well, I mean, what the government actually needs is, in fact, around 53% of the vote after preferences.
So they've got 52.5 at the moment.
They've got 50.5 at the moment. That's right.
No, sorry, but I mean the existing Parliament is based on them having 52.5%.
That's right, 52.5. So what I'm saying is, to be comfortable, they would prefer to have 53. But what we can see there is actually, well, it's a swing away from the Liberal Party, but a swing towards the Nationals. So, I mean, it kind of evens out as a swing away from the government of around 2%, but a swing to Labor about 3.2, which is basically what you've been saying, Andrew, earlier on in some of the seats.
Yes, that's right. In fact, we've got, I believe, with that swing, if it's enough in the particular seats that we need, that would be enough to give us government. I came in earlier saying that it's very tight to predict, but of all of the predictions, the ones that seem to have a little bit more credibility was us picking up seats. So this is showing that. As I say, it's early days yet, but I'm still feeling confident with that.
And certainly a bit early to concede. I appreciate that, Pickering, but you can't be too pleased about the look of those figures, those trends.
Well, the figures on a statewide basis like that are simply not meaningful. It will come down to seats. At this stage, our intelligence would clearly indicate that we're probably going to pick up South Coast. And Labor has got us in some difficulties, presumably in Gladesville and possibly Badgerys Creek, and we've got them in difficulties in Cogra. If that all went the way it went, it would be line ball. You can't look at general state swings anymore. You've simply got to look at the marginal seats, and there have been separate campaigns which are having their separate effect.
Yes, I think that's a fair comment. We might have a look, though, at our bums on seat graphic at the moment to see how many people that we're putting into the chamber at this stage, to see if we can break down some of those figures. Now, the way the election is looking at the moment...
That's the way it is at the moment, which is 48-47 with 3 non-aligned independents and 1 independent, Tony Windsor, that comes down on the side of the coalition. But if we're looking at Badgerys Creek and Gladesville to the Labor Party and South Coast and Cogra to the Liberal Party?
No,
too early?
No, I wouldn't say
too early.
No, too early.
I've just been looking at some analysis there, and on those figures, we're still looking at a hung parliament. There's no seat definitely gone one way or the other yet by the look of it. A lot of close seats.
Yeah.
We're seeing quite a few seats in doubt and seats where one party's ahead of the other, but we aren't seeing any changes to seats yet, and at this stage, the computer's still predicting a hung parliament, though we won't sort of...
But we are looking at a sort of scenario where seats could just be swapped and you still end up with the same
There's a couple
numbers.
of things that we're getting in now that suggest very strongly the seats like Port Jackson that could have been a difficult one for us, looks very clearly we've won that. Drummoyne seems to be coming in very strongly for us, so we seem to be picking up on some of those that could have been more difficult for us.
I think we could also indicate that there is some difficulty developing for us in Murwillumbah, and that'll be a seat we'll have to look at carefully. There's an independent running there that's running quite strongly, and we would think many of his preferences will in fact come back to us, even though he extends preferences to the Labor Party. But it's a seat we're going to have to watch very carefully.
Yes, indeed. OK, well, look, there's one person who I think will be feeling very relaxed at the moment and under no threat at all. She holds the seat of Camden. Her name is Liz Kernahan, and I can see her there at the moment. So, Liz Kernahan, I suppose I should be saying congratulations. It's looking pretty good for you, isn't it? Liz Kernahan, can you hear me?
Only just, Andrew.
Only just. Well, look,
yes. There's a lot of crackling on the line.
OK, well, it's for you to talk anyway. I gather the figures are looking very good for you?
Well, I'm very happy with the way they're going.
What have you heard out there so far? What percentage of the vote counted that you've got?
Oh, I don't know, to be truthful. They haven't told. They've been coming in just one on top of the other. And I've been standing here waiting, I'm afraid, and I haven't got the latest.
So all the news has been good, though, hasn't it?
Ah, yes. It's. I'm very happy with the way it's coming along.
But not enough to actually claim victory.
I like things signed, sealed and delivered before I say anything.
Well, listen, stay with us. I'll just tell you what the figures are. Oh, they just cut off the screen. The latest figures we had here, after 21% of the vote counted, show 54% of the vote almost going to you,
Right.
32.5% going to the Labor Party,
Yeah.
and the rest to the Greens and others. But on a two-party preferred basis, that gives you 53%, which isn't too bad, is it?
I'm very happy if it ends up that way, that's for sure.
Well, our computer projection is that you will retain the seat of Camden. So I hope it's not too premature to say congratulations. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, let's go back now to Canberra, where, of course, that by-election has been going on. Jim Middleton talked to us a little earlier and made it quite clear that it looked like there was going to be a definite, well, certainly a huge swing against the Labor Party. And in fact, there's a swing against Canberra at the moment too. We're not able to cross to them at the moment. But just to bring you up to date on that anyway, the last we heard was that there'd been a 15% swing against the ALP in Canberra. They look like losing that seat that used to be held by Ros Kelly in the federal parliament, although we're not absolutely certain on that yet, but we'll check a little later as soon as we can get the line back up to Jim Middleton in Canberra. Meanwhile, we're here at a state election, of course, for New South Wales. It's a very tight election. Very few, in fact, we haven't really given away any seats yet. I mean, by given away, I mean changed hands. Not giving away any seats in the sense of changing hands to the other side. There's a lot that look like swinging one way or the other, but we haven't actually given any way away yet. Let's have a look now at some of the ALP seats that are in a bit of doubt at the moment, because they have to fight to hold some of theirs as well as to try and win the government. First up, Bathurst.
Bathurst there, yes. Mick Clough, the long-serving member of the Labor Party. He's about 68 years old, and he's up against Trevor Toole, who's a local mayor up there of Evans Shire. Now, Trevor Toole, has actually been running a very strong campaign, and the National Party has actually talked about this as their secret weapon. Anthony, you had something you wanted to say about the primary vote there.
Well, on that figure, it looks like the National Party are romping in. But in fact, what we're seeing here is we've got the booths, the little tiny booths. There's 27 booths with under 200 votes in Bathurst. There's also reporting in here is Oberon and Kelso, which are both in the rural areas, and two of the smaller Bathurst booths. Yet to come are Lithgow and most of the big Bathurst booths. If we turn that into a prediction, what you're seeing is, in fact, on the basis of comparison of the booths, the Labor Party are ahead on that. It looks like there's been a swing of about 3.5 to 4% in that electorate.
And while we've still got that graphic up, if I can just mention the swingometer in the top right of the picture up there. We haven't actually drawn your attention to this before. It was showing before quite a handsome swing to the Labor Party. That was the existing situation. It has swung towards the National Party, but you'll notice that it's still in the red. Yeah,
the important thing there is that why you could possibly explain that is this time there was a National Party candidate running. Last time there was a Liberal candidate. The fact that the Liberal held that from 88 to 91 was a bit of a surprise. It was always either Labor or National Party territory, and in this case, with the National Party running, they seem to have picked up a few extra votes.
Anthony, we've got figures on that. We've now got about 2/3 of the booths in. That's about 28,000 votes have been counted. Labor's ahead on the primary vote, and the Green preferences 60% coming to us, and the other preferences seem to be either exhausting or supporting us. So I would think that with that amount counted, we're looking much stronger than those figures, but certainly...
Have you got a two-party preferred swing?
No, they still say it's tight up there, but it says that we should be ahead.
He had a nice buffer of a bit over 5%.
Yeah.
Let's have a look now at the seat of Drummoyne, where the Labor member doesn't have that much of a buffer. This is John Murray, of course. He's got the concern of the airport noise in his backyard.
John Murray holds that seat with a 3.7% margin. Well, according to our figures, it's less than 1% of the vote counted there. It actually, according to the primary figures, the Liberal Party has 50.6% of the vote. We'd have to factor in the no aircraft noise there as well. We see on the booths, this is telling us that the ALP is actually ahead there, and that's the prediction, that's the estimate of our computer.
That one's obviously running very, very much behind. That booth is at Rhodes, which is well away from the aircraft part of the electorate. I'd be surprised if there was a decent vote for no aircraft noise at Rhodes. It's at the wrong end of the electorate.
So, in fact, that's probably false hope there for
I've got some good news here for the Labor Party. From Cogra, they say that we're 600 votes ahead on a two-party preferred. Only one booth left to come in with a maximum of 500 votes in that booth.
That's sounding close to claiming a victory.
So I'll check that ahead, but I'm saying Brian's won Cogra.
Brian Langton, who was looking
Brian
a little...
Our Shadow Minister for Transport, I think he's... With a big fight out there, I think he's got that sewn up now.
Yes, he's certainly looking a bit more comfortable there, isn't he? Okay, let's now have a look at the seat of Coogee. I'm not sure if we've actually seen... Oh, we saw Ernie Page's figures a little earlier, didn't we?
Yes, Ernie Page up there up against Margaret Martin from the Liberal Party there. Our figures are telling us 13.2% of the vote being counted. Let's just have a look at the percentage of primary votes there. The percentage of primary votes puts the ALP marginally ahead. But we do have the estimate there. The computer can give us an estimate of what it sees there. Well, it's still fairly close, but I think that the party itself says they're fairly confident about Ernie Page.
Yes, we think, in fact, that it'll be a little bit better than that. There's a swing to Ernie on the two-party preferred, so I would expect those figures are very close, but we'd be a bit better off than that. Ernie's certainly going to win the seat.
Okay, let's have a look now at the seat of Blue Mountains, which everyone has had a lot of interest in, of course. The last time we flashed the figures up here, I think we ended up with an absolutely 50% line ball situation for Liberal and Labor. But let's have a look at that now.
Okay, Blue Mountains, about 56% of the vote counted there. Jennifer Scott, the Liberal Party candidate, 26.8%, ALP 37.2%, but we have to look at the independent there, which factors in Barry Morris. Well, marginally ahead for the ALP, that's Bob Debus. But you would still have to factor in there Barry Morris as the night progresses.
Well, we've got Barry Morris online again. I hope you can hear me this time, Barry Morris.
I certainly can.
Oh, good. Thank you for joining us and for your patience in coming back with us. But we were just saying that it's looking very close in your electorate, but that's on the basis of our computer following your directions of giving your preferences to the Liberals. Now, I assume there'd be some leak away from that. What have you been hearing from your scrutineers?
We're hearing from our scrutineers that we've won birds that we've never won before. There's some very favourable birds to come in for us yet, and we're saying that there's a 4% swing here to the Conservatives, and that Scott will retain the seat. But we're not conceding defeat yet because we've got some very big boos to come in that are very favourable to us.
Well, sorry, you're saying that there's a swing to the Conservatives, to the Liberal Party?
Yes.
Or
yeah.
are you factoring yourself in there too? You're combining it?
Sorry?
Sorry, do you mean you and the Liberal Party or just the Liberal Party?
No, the Conservative cause is 4% ahead of Labor.
So what does that mean that you've done by running as an independent? What are you saying that you've actually, how have you affected the vote up there in the Blue Mountains?
Well, we figure that there's 56% of the vote counted, but we haven't got, all of the big birds are not in yet, and we've won birds that we haven't won before, so we still think that we're in the race with a big chance.
But Mr Morris, you did say you thought Jennifer Scott would get up there.
Looks like it at the moment, one of the figures that we've got.
Does that make you happy?
Very happy indeed. Keep the bloody Labor blokes out.
I thought you wanted to keep the other side out just as much.
Sorry?
I thought you wanted to keep the other side out just about as much. But...
Well, that's why we're in the run, aren't we? And we can only go by what the people have had their say today, haven't they?
All right. Thanks for talking to us, Barry Morris.
Thank you.
He's up in the Blue Mountains there, of course, a seat which we'll be watching very closely all night. Let's go back down to our people on the floor again, our experts, Gerard Henderson and Malcolm McGregor. First to you, if I can, Gerard. Have you been getting any handle on what impact the aircraft noise situation has had?
Well, the Labor people on the floor here feel it's had little impact at this stage, and Labor's fairly confident of holding most of, or all at this stage, all of these airport-affected seats. So at this stage, it doesn't look like it's had a big impact at all. It may have had a bigger impact in the media than it's had in the polling booth.
Clearly so. I guess it's been pretty difficult for voters to decide whether they want to make a one-party issue, a one-issue vote, or whether they want to take a few other issues into consideration.
Well, I think that's one factor, Andrew. I think the other factor is a lot of journalists live under the flight path. Something perhaps we shouldn't say.
What a cynic, Gerard.
Ah, yes.
Okay, let's go to Malcolm McGregor there. Malcolm, are you there?
I'm there.
You've been looking at the seat of Manly, I think.
I've got some Liberal sources talking from Manly. I defer to Ted Pickering if he's got anything more recent, but they broke even in the critical Harbord booth, and the general feeling amongst the scrutineers who've been reporting into my source is that Peter McDonald will hold Manly, which again was one of the seats the Liberal Party probably needed to pick up, but their feeling on the ground is that they may have come up a little short over there. And I endorse what Gerard said. There's been a lot of hype about aircraft noise, but they haven't really delivered. The biggest fizzer since Rocky Gadolari's boxing comeback.
Okay, we'll have to see what his political fortunes will be like soon, maybe.
Have a look.
Get some figures from Cabramatta. It'd be nice to have. Thanks for that.
My advisors from Manly tell us that they're hanging in and waiting for two key indicator booths still to arrive. So we're not writing Manly off yet at this stage.
Okay, but it's obviously a very interesting contest out there.
Certainly is.
Let's have a look at we were looking at some doubtful Labor Party seats before. Let's have a look now at some of the doubtful coalition seats. Now, Badgerys Creek was looking pretty bad for Anne Cohen a little earlier. Let's see what the latest situation is.
Okay, Badgerys Creek at the moment has Anne Cohen, well, just from those primary figures, and that's more than half the vote counted. It looks very close between Mrs Cohen and Diane Beamer. Okay, that gives us the primary vote. Let's just have a look at the estimate now. It's still too close to call, although it looks like the Liberal Party is marginally ahead there, but only by a whisker.
There's a couple of new booths that are yet to come in that electorate. St Clair North, which is a new joint booth just on the other side of the freeway, which is a bit hard to judge what effect that'll have, but on those sorts of figures, that's very close, and we'll be waiting on preference counts for that seat, definitely.
I would have thought the St Clair booth would be favouring Labor, so it is going to certainly make it a very close seat there.
Yeah, it was about the same vote as the St Clair booth, I suspect, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the seat of Wollumbar again now. This is Don Beck's seat, of course, where Jade Hurley is also contesting it, which muddies the waters a bit, doesn't it, Kieran?
It does muddy the waters, especially with Mr Hurley directing his preferences to the Labor Party, although on the primary figures there, with 34.2% of the vote counted, Don Beck appears to be ahead, but you have to again look at the right-hand side there, the grey, which is the independents, which includes Jade Hurley. There's a rather large field of candidates there. It's very, very close, but the National Party marginally ahead at this stage.
There's an important point to make in that seat, and that is that there's a couple of other independents. There's a Green called Leonard and an independent called Diamond, both directing preferences to Hurley. Now, they've got about 800 between them, but Hurley's at this stage 700 behind Wilson. So if that figure continues, it's unlikely that Hurley would get ahead of Wilson, in which case it's a Labor national finish. Now, if Hurley improves when, say, some of the Tweed Heads we haven't got any Tweed Heads booths in at this stage. When some Tweed Heads booths come in, like there's a big one at Tweed Heads, the Hurley's vote may go up. I'm not sure. If Hurley's vote passes Wilson,
Those go to you.
contest.
That goes to us, is it?
Which would be interesting, wouldn't it? Okay, let's move on now to the seat of Cronulla.
Cronulla is actually an interesting seat. Malcolm Kerr there, the government whip in that seat, he supposedly would hold that seat quite safely. However, there's an interesting independent there, Byron Hurst. Now, according to our figures, we have 8.5% of the vote counted there. Liberal Party, Malcolm Kerr, 45.9%. And have a look at the independent there. That's the grey figure there. That probably accounts for Byron Hurst. Let's just have a look at the prediction. Well, it has the Liberal Party up there, the estimate up there. So, I mean, Malcolm Kerr would probably win Cronulla, but there has been talk about Byron Hurst. He's just a local councillor there who's been running a very strong campaign.
Malcolm Kerr's looking pretty good at the moment.
Malcolm Kerr's looking good in
The
Cronulla.
whip is cracking, I think. Let's go now to the seat of Gladesville, where earlier it was looking like Ivan Petch was struggling.
That's right. Ivan Petch, the sitting Liberal member there. It looks very close on the basis of that primary vote. If we just have a look at the bars, it looks very close. It's very close. And in terms of the estimate, again, very close, with the ALP slightly ahead, but I don't think you could say anything about that seat at the moment other than it is in doubt.
I think the scrutiny is that we're getting in showing very clearly that Labor's getting the majority there. I think Labor is going to win that seat. I think it's very close to claiming it too.
Mr. Pickering?
Bit early yet. Bit early yet.
Too early?
The important thing in a seat like that is that both major parties are down around 40%. That means 1 in 5 people have voted for someone else. 1 in 5 votes for preferences. If you want to get an estimate of what's the final result on that, you've got to have very good scrutineers, and it can be a long count.
It will be indeed.
We knew that. We had very good scrutineers put there, so we could make sure we got an accurate vote. Nothing worse than being a candidate overnight, not knowing whether you've won or lost. It's
Just
much
a point on that, the no aircraft noise got 7.5% there. A lot of the booths that come in are up around Ryde. There's 2 Gladesville booths. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the no aircraft noise vote. I suspect that's probably about all it's going to be.
Okay, let's move back to Blue Mountains and see what the latest figures are there in the seat that Barry Morris holds, but is unlikely to continue to hold.
Yes, but Barry Morris says he's very happy if Jennifer Scott holds the seat. So he's done an abrupt turnaround in the last few weeks. Jennifer Scott there with 5,852. Bob Debus seems to be ahead on primaries with 55.9% of the vote counted. The ALP appears to be ahead, but again, the independent factor comes in there, which would favour Jennifer Scott, and it's too close at the moment.
The
Anthony,
important point to make there is that on those primary votes, Debus has only got 37%, and he's a leading candidate. In other words, you've nearly got 1 in 4 votes for someone other than Morris and the Liberal. As well as Morris, who's got 17.5%, there's an independent called, I think it's Joy Gall, who's an independent councillor on the local council, and she was directing preferences to Labor. And the Democrat, who's got 6.5% in that electorate, there's a tradition of the Democrat preferences leaking to the Labor in that electorate as well. So, as well as Morris going to Liberals, there's a lot of preferences going to Labor. So it's one that needed a precise count.
Okay. In a moment, we're just going to check on that other election down in Canberra, but before I do that, you got some latest figures on South Coast?
Andrew, with 60% of the vote counted in South Coast, the ALP has 29.5%. Hatton has 18% and the Liberals 43.1%, with Hatton's preferences going all over the place. On those figures, you'd feel a lot happier about the Liberal Party in the South Coast.
Yeah, it's looking like a gone one for the Hatton independent team, and good one for the Liberal Party, of course. Well, let's go down to Canberra now, where Jim Middleton, last time we spoke to him, was telling us that things were looking very bleak for the Labor Party. Is it all over for them, Jim?
It is. I think it's good night Labor here in Canberra, with 3/4 of the vote counted now, Andrew. The Labor candidate, Sue Robinson, has a mere 30% of the vote, fully 22% below what Ros Kelly got at the 1993 election. The Liberal candidate, Brendan Smith, has 46% of the vote, which is a rise for them of about 10% for the Liberal Party, and it will obviously be enough for them to gain victory here with support of the minor parties. It's a 7-party field, or 7-candidate field, and the only other candidate of any note is the Greens candidate, who's got about 13% of the vote. So it's a big smack in the eye, particularly for Paul Keating, who you may remember when he talked about the ACT election here about a month ago, who said, so what, when Labor got about 30% of the vote? Well, so what? Labor's got about 30% of the vote again and has lost the seat of Canberra for the first time since 1980.
It's certainly starting to amount to something a bit hard for him to ignore now, I would have thought.
It is, and I think this was something that Labor Party had feared through the week. The Canberra may seem like a fairly middle-class town, although with the motorbike racing by here you might think otherwise. and also with V8s as well. But in the southern part of the electorate of Canberra, has grown very, very fast. It's very much like Campbelltown. There are a lot of new homeowners, first homeowners, and they've been hit very badly by interest rate rises. They've had low start loans, which have come up, and of course they've had 2.5% on top of that, so they were paying 7% before, they're now paying around 11, and obviously that's hurt them very, very badly. I suppose the message for the Labor Party in all of this is it's interest rates stupid.
Yes, indeed. I think perhaps what we were just hearing in the background there was the scrutineers for the Hells Angels party, which is running in the upper house here. But in any event, has Sue Robinson conceded yet?
Not that I'm aware of, but there's not really much point. It's quite clear that this has been a disaster for Labor, that the Liberals will win. They've held this seat once before between 1975 and 1980, when, of course, taking it after the fall of the Whitlam government. But this has been largely regarded as a safe Labor seat, a margin of 9.5% on a two-party preferred basis. The swing to the Liberals is a massive 17, which I think, from my recollection, is the biggest swing in a by-election against the Labor Party since Labor came to power federally in 1983.
I want a science for them. Jim, thanks very much for that.
A pleasure, Andrew.
Jim Middleton online there from Canberra, where Labor is in deep trouble. They're doing a bit better here in the New South Wales state election, we have to say. But let's have a look at the overview now with a few graphics that will show us the state trend. Kerry?
Yes, this gives us the statewide trend with 38.3% of the vote counted. Combine the Liberal and National Party vote, and you get 51.3. Combined, and with the ALP vote, 48.7. It doesn't appear to have changed much from when we last had a look at it. Let's just have a look at the swings. Similar again, the swing away from the Libs and towards the National Party more or less cancels each other out, but a 2.6% swing to the ALP, which is coming down
Democrats
on what we saw before, and the Democrats big losers there. Is there any reason for that, Anthony, in terms of the seats they've contested this time around?
The Democrats are only running half as many candidates as last time. It's interesting the National Party votes up there. It's not a basis of early figures, but there were a lot of rural protest parties around at the last election, so I suspect a lot of those people have gone back to the National Party. Plus, there's a National running in Bathurst this time, but then there isn't one. There's no Liberal in Broken Hill, there's no Liberal in Bathurst, and there's
no National.
While they've lost vote in Tamworth, it still balances out.
Our phone's ringing. Do you want to take that, Kerry?
Hello.
We'll push on, I think, and have a look and see if we can get any look at the chamber to see if it's showing up any seats that have been given across as yet. What's our chamber showing us at this stage? Is our bums on seats graphic?
Well,
simply showing the existing situation.
Well, there's not much change, basically. What you're seeing there is that we've currently got the coalition with 45 definite seats, and we've got Labor with 46 definite seats. And I think we've got one more likely seat, which I think is, I think it's Blue Mountains, was sort of leaning towards Labor. And we've got 4 seats in doubt at this stage, and neither of them are there. Neither of them are across the line. And given the couple of seats we've looked at there, we could be here all night.
We could be here for quite a while.
Certainly more than 4 seats in doubt.
And there's a few I've got here more on Drummoyne. We're looking better there, and certainly the No Aircraft Noise Party doesn't seem to be making enough of an impact to be hurting Labor in Drummoyne.
Anthony, you've been challenged here. I mean, Ted says that there's certainly a lot more than 4 seats in doubt.
Oh, depends what you mean by doubtful.
Well, come on, defend the computer.
No, I'll just have a look. Let me have a look. You
double check.
You argue with it. Well, I've got Blue Mountains, Gladesville, Bathurst, Badger's Creek and Wollongbar. Someone was telling me that Labor's saying something nasty about what's happening to them in Bathurst. We'll wait and see. We've only got 33% counted. But Cogra, well, I haven't had a look at Cogra for a while.
I think
our computer reckons that Labor's retained Cogra now. So some of these seats are going back. I must say, actually,
at least 5 seats.
Do you want to? I think we should have a look at Cogra.
Yes.
There's a very interesting point in this seat. This is a seat the Democrats were going to hand out how-to-vote cards directing preferences to the Liberal Party. Now, if we have a look at these figures here, you'll see that the ALP's got 10,200 votes and Margaret Donkin's 9,500. If you go to the percentages, the Labor Party is quite clearly ahead at this stage. Now, if we factor in some preferences, now I think there's a few Labor boos to come. It's saying that Labor's retained that seat. Now, that's with me directing preferences to the Liberal Party. Yeah. Now, according to what Andrew was saying to me before we went on air, that in fact a lot of Democrats wouldn't hand out that how-to-vote card.
But when you direct, though, when you say that you're taking into account that the Democrats have directed their preferences to the Libs. Are you saying that 100% of those votes go to them, or 80%?
I've factored in that a slight majority of Democrat preferences will go to the Liberal
60%.
Party. I've got, with a large exhausted rate, about sort of 60%, 60% of the actual preferences.
Yeah.
But in fact, from what Andrew was saying earlier, perhaps that may not be correct.
Yeah. It seems that there was concern on the floor, on the ground, that the Democrats' booth workers weren't happy with the way in which the preferences were being directed, and so they were refusing to hand those out and telling people to vote one Democrat and two Labor. So, in fact, what we're going to see, I think, is a higher vote for Labor there, and the two-party preferred, that we will hold Cogra.
Okay. Well, look, we've got, I think, 4 independents in the current Parliament. Let's have a look now at 3 of the more critical ones. Oh, no, we're going to look at all of the independents. We'll start, though, with the seat of Bligh, which is the one that's expected to hold quite comfortably.
Here's a seat we haven't actually looked at yet tonight. Bligh held by Clover Moore, up against Susan Harbin for the ALP and James Fisher for the Liberal Party. Now, it's always been talked about as if it's anybody's seat other than Clover Moore's, it's the Liberal Party's seat. So there at the moment on primaries, 39.1% of the vote, but Clover Moore is doing much better than that on 36.3. Let's have a look at the bars. Okay, well, Clover Moore, she wasn't ever expected to lose this seat. The only problem was going to be that the ALP candidate, Susan Harbin, might take votes away from her because of her sympathies with the homosexual vote. But I think you would say that Clover Moore will retain Bligh.
Clover Moore's probably always going to win that seat.
Yeah, the Libs had some hopes, but they were frankly very light hopes.
Clover Moore's vote has gone down, but at this stage, I don't think all the Surrey Hills booths and Paddington booths. The Surrey Hills and Paddington is her strength. You've got a lot of Darling Point and Woolaras in this moment, so the Liberal vote will probably fall in that seat as the vote comes in.
Let's go to a seat, though, that the Libs were very confident of winning. They certainly threw everything at it, and that's Peter McDonald's seat of Manly.
Manly, the seat where the accusations of dirty tricks were flying thick and fast in the last week. Peter McDonald there would look to be on the primary vote slightly behind David Oldfield, the Liberal Party candidate. Let's just have a look at that as a percentage. Primary percentages there with the bars. Okay, well, the Liberal Party is 43.3. Peter McDonald is just under 30%. 40, just under 40%. Sorry, it's hard to see that figure on the grey there. Let's just have a look at the computer's estimate. Well, it has Peter McDonald marginally ahead, but I don't think that you could call that seat at the moment.
Our computer's calling it.
Our computer is calling.
We should go into the swings on that seat if we can, because it's interesting to look at what's happened to the vote. Now, in fact, Peter McDonald's vote has only gone up slightly. That's different from the trend we've seen when Clover Moore won Bligh or Ted Mack won North Shore, that they began to erode the vote of the other parties once they're in there. Manly, that hasn't happened to him, so I suggest the Liberal Party campaign has really sort of stopped the further drift of voters to the independent.
Okay, now to the seat of South Coast, of course, where the Hattons have been trying to further a dynasty.
It was a very safe seat for John Hatton. Here, of course, the Liberal Party is very confident of winning this seat tonight. It's 49.8% of the vote counted. Anthony Green's saying here that they have won it. With the primary vote, 41% for the Liberal Party. Let's just have a look now at the estimate. Well, you'd have to say that the Liberal has gained that party, as our computer is in fact saying.
What we should do is, if we've still got it, is look at the swings in that seat. This is very important, because what you've got there is you've got a swing of 30-odd% against John Hatton Jr. He hasn't been able to maintain the vote of his father. He's lost over half the vote. Now, it's hard to know who will win that seat. The computer's probably sort of a little more adventurous than I am, but the Liberals are certainly far ahead on 41%. We don't know what happens to Hatton's preferences, because his preferences have never been counted in that electorate, but I would take a guess that as the Liberal candidate is 9% ahead of Labor, there would have to be a very strong flow of Hatton preferences to Labor for Liberals not to win.
You would expect a fairly significant exhaustion rate of preferences, because, as I understand it, Mr Hatton would have issued a vote one only, and a lot of people would have followed that technique. Yeah.
How many resources did you pour into that seat, literally, when Mr Hatton made his announcement? You literally only had 4 weeks, because before that, you didn't even see it as a going concern, did you?
What we did in the seat was to remind everyone, first of all, that people are not anointed to Parliament. That only occurs in faraway kingdoms. And that Mr Hatton was, up till a few moments before his father retired, a Democrat. And we didn't see this was an opportunity for the Democrats to get their first seat in the lower house. That message is cut through very effectively.
The one we haven't looked at yet is Tamworth, which of course is held by Tony Windsor, who has already been invited back to the National Party, hasn't he?
That's right. That's one of the most unusual seats because, in fact, there's no National Party candidate and no Liberal Party candidate in that seat. I think that you can take it as read that Tony Windsor is, in fact, the de facto National Party member. And I don't even know if there's any point going to the prediction or the estimate there, but we can have a look at it. But Tony Windsor will hold the seat of Tamworth. It's his seat.
No doubt about that, I think. We'll happily give that to them.
We've got some further figures here. One I would like to announce is that Marrickville's been won handsomely. Clearly home-and-hosed in Marrickville.
We're going to do the airport seats in a minute.
And I would like to thank all the booth workers for their hard work today. I'll be with you later on tonight.
You've got plenty of work to do here first.
One of the other ones is Gladesville. We've got now over 16,000 counted from our scrutineers. We're on a 51.1% two-party preferred for Gladesville for Labor. I think it is very close to claiming Gladesville for Labor. That's one that we will win. That puts us, we need another one to be governing, another two to be across the line totally.
You're not allowing for South Coast, of course. That puts us back square again.
Well,
I think Gladesville's
there's a few more hours to go.
I think Gladesville is one our computer probably has given, isn't it?
It's getting very close. Getting very close.
It's inside the mind of this computer.
If you've got any estimate of what the Democrat preferences are, we'd be most interested.
Okay, I'll see if I can get that.
Okay, we were advised earlier to put humans ahead of these confounded machines anyway. So let's go back to Gerard Henderson and Malcolm McGregor. Gentlemen on the floor, what are you hearing?
Well, there's some concern, Andrew, in Liberal circles that whilst they probably have won South Coast, they might have lost Badgerys Creek and Gladesville, which would be a net loss of one, which could well lead to a situation where there would be a minority Labor government rather than a minority Liberal government. It's obviously still too close to call, but there is concern in the Liberal camp. That may sort itself out in the next hour or so. On the National Party side, they're concerned about Bathurst and Murwillumbah. They're not certain they can get Bathurst there, but they are hopeful they can get Bathurst. And if that vote changed, that would again change that other
yes, last time we looked at Mick Clough's seat, he was looking in some trouble, but it sounds like he might have clawed his way back a bit there.
The Nationals are less confident now than they were half an hour ago,
yeah. Okay, Malcolm?
I can confirm what Gerard's got from the National Party also, Andrew. The Labor Party are firming up on Bathurst a little. And I'd like to make a point about Cogra. Brian Langton was elected in a by-election the same day Bob Carr was elected to Parliament. He's got a very strong political infrastructure down there in Cogra. And if that seat is tight and goes to, say, postal votes, I'd lean Brian Langton's way. He would have had a very good pre-poll operation. He has a lot of the same booth workers that have served Gary Punch very well in the federal seat of Barton. And Labor run a very good operation down there. So if that goes down to the wire and is decided after voting day by postals and other things, I'm a little inclined to say Brian might hang on.
Thanks, Malcolm. Okay, well, let's try and have a look at the overall situation now. And as you just heard from what Gerard was saying there, that we're looking at a situation at the moment, I suppose, where it's possible that one seat might change hands in net results in this election, which will just simply move the balance of power to away from the coalition to the Labor Party, but still in very much a hung government.
Yes, I mean, and as Mr. Pickering pointed out earlier, it's hard to look at statewide trends, statewide swings, when in fact it's being fought in a lot of separate by-elections, as you said earlier, Andrew. Again, it's the same. It's almost a negative swing now. It's almost a zilch swing in terms of the coalition, and a 2.5% swing to the ALP.
So at this stage, as I said, it's absolutely line ball, this election. There seems no doubt that there will be, well, very little doubt, I think we can say that there'll be anything other than a hung parliament.
Okay, right, yes.
It's hard to see otherwise.
No, I wouldn't say that. I think there is still a real chance that Labor could have a majority in its own right. I'm not backing at the moment, but it certainly is looking much closer to that now than at any other time. I think there's still seats that Labor can win that will put us across the line. I would say we're ahead in Gladesville. I'd say in Badgerys Creek, latest figures I've got here show that there's 9 votes separating us on the two-party preferred, but we've still got big ALP booths to come in. So I'd say Badgerys is a real go for us. Murwillumbah as well. I don't think we're losing any of our seats at all. And Blue Mountains. That would, those are the ones I've been talking about before the program started. Those are the ones I'll continue to talk about, I think. And the only picking up for the Liberals is the South Coast. And in that sense, I think it is still possible, quite on the cards, for Labor to have a majority in its own right.
Just
early yet, but I think it's still
very early.
Do you give yourself any chances of governing in your own right, though?
Well, I think it's better to be a hung
isn't it?
parliament on the figures, but I would still think that we have won South Coast. We are likely to win Bathurst and Blue Mountains, and if we lose Gladesville, that would still leave us in government. So it's too close to call this.
Okay, well, let's have a look, in fact, at the chamber graphic now to see if we can, just what we've got there. Now, what's it showing for us?
It's showing the ALP with 46 and the National Party with, I'm sorry, I can't read those figures on there. And the National Party
45.
with 16, the Liberal Party with 29. Okay, well, it's basically showing that the ALP has lost one seat. Why is it showing us that the ALP has lost one seat? No, it's predicting a hung parliament.
No, it's showing us there's still a few in doubt.
Still a few in doubt, yeah.
But it's saying, basically, there's a hung parliament, but with the Labor Party in control of a minority government. And at this stage, I think the odds would have to be on that, wouldn't they? Do you have any disagreement with that?
Yes, I do. I certainly wouldn't walk away from Bathurst. And if we pick up Bathurst, South Coast and Blue Mountains and lose Gladesville, I'm certainly not going to concede Badgerys Creek nor Wollumbar. On that, we would, of course, be governing in our own right. So it's, the way things are shaping, I doubt that we're going to know the result of the election this evening.
Okay, well, let's have a quick look at the figures for Manly, because I want to cross out to Peter McDonald again at the moment. So the latest figures for Manly show us, well, in fact, they're the figures we saw a little earlier. I think nothing seems to have changed according to our computer, which was putting Dr. Peter McDonald ahead on that basis. When you turn it quickly into two-party preferred vote, he does pretty well there, well ahead. Peter McDonald, you're probably looking at that on the screen. I can see you turning over there. Is that, you got more up-to-date information than that? I don't think the question was that good, but thanks anyway. Peter McDonald, have you got more up-to-date figures than that?
Am I on air?
You are.
Oh, sorry, Andrew. I've got quite a lively bunch behind me here, but no, it's still pretty tight in the sense that it's gone to preferences. There's only 35% of the preferences being counted, and we know already that the booths have been quite varied in terms of the way the preferences have gone. So, it's a long way yet before we can possibly determine a result. Certainly, I'm going to remain cautious at this stage.
Fair enough. You're obviously feeling quite good, though, judging by the mood in the background there. Would you like to have a look at those figures? We'll flash them up for you again if you like.
Yeah.
I think I would like to have a look at the figures. There they are. You can talk us through those as to watch the screen there. You don't have to look at us. It's okay. You can talk us through the figures.
Yeah.
Now, you can see there that you've got, 700 votes or 650 votes behind the Liberal Party, but there's 1,850 Labor Party votes to be... can we move on to percentages there? To be distributed.
Yeah.
And that's the percentage that we've got there, which looks pretty good for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's... I'm not good at arithmetic. That's what, 4.2. But look, I think that we were much more encouraged earlier on when, in fact, the primaries were looking very good. We seem to take a bit of a setback, but look, give us a few more of those the preference distributions, and then we might be in a position to be a bit more optimistic. But we're certainly buoyed up by the result.
Okay, well, look, thanks for joining us. We'll leave you to sort of celebrate. Bye-bye. Dr. Peter McDonald out there in the seat of Manly. We'll have to turn down the roar that's going on in the background there. Let's go back to, speaking of roar, to those airport seats. Now, it seems that they've been having, this issue of aircraft noise has been having less impact. Gerard Henderson suggested earlier that the media's been excited about it because a lot of journalists live in the flight path. But let's have a look at the real impact on voters, starting with the seat of Ashfield, Paul Whelan's seat.
Mr. Whelan there is ahead clearly. If we have a look at the percentage of primary votes, he's clearly ahead with 42.9. If you have a look at the independent vote there, which includes the No Aircraft Noise Party, well, I mean, Mr. Whelan's doing fine in that
Big
seat.
swing.
It may be that the No Aircraft Noise Party, being a single-issue party, didn't attract the sort of votes that people expected it to attract.
I think it's important on these. We'll look through these airport seats. We'll stay on the percentage votes for a while because it's important here. The No Aircraft Noise got 40% of the vote. 20% of the vote, I'm sorry, let me get that right. They've taken, the Labour vote was down 6%, the Liberal vote was down 7%. It seems that the Liberal vote's been harmed more by the No Aircraft Noise Party in that seat than the Labor Party vote. And given that, the only chance for the no aircraft noise to defeat the Labor members was if they could force Labor into second place behind the Liberals. So on those figures, well, there's a significant vote for the no aircraft noise in Ashfield, but they've still run third in that seat.
Okay, well, let's move on to another seat now. This is the seat of Gladesville, which of course is the Ivan Petch seat, the Liberal seat, which looked like going, I think.
This is the seat that seems to be in doubt for the Liberal Party. Ivan Petch there, with 61% of the vote counted, would seem to be, he's marginally ahead of the ALP, but you have to factor in the preferences there, so we better have a look at the estimate. ALP is marginally ahead there, and it's in doubt according to our estimate. Now, that would seem to be that the No Aircraft Noise Party there either didn't have any effect or basically decided to blame the government.
They've only got 8.5% in that electorate, so they haven't performed very well at all. I think the more interesting seat is Marrickville, which is, of course, directly under... Lane Cove is next, which is Kerry Chikarovsky's seat. And there's something very interesting happened in this election if we bring up the figures. And what you're seeing there is Kerry Chikarovsky's vote on the primaries has actually subsided substantially. Now, if we go through the the primaries, is that her vote is 52%. It was nearly 67% last time. The Labor vote's down, it's only 16.5. No Aircraft Noise have got 16.6 and have outpolled the Labor Party. And there's an independent with 5%, a Green with 5, and a Democrat with 5. So there's been a substantial shift on a whole range of issues away from the Liberal Party to minor parties in that seat. So it looks again like it's the Liberal Party vote which has gone to the No Aircraft Noise.
Do they all come back to Kerry Chikarovsky in the end, though, when the preferences are distributed?
No, I suspect her vote will be well down, but there may be a very high exhausted rate. In fact, I don't think Labor will finish second in that seat. I think Labor will finish third, and it will be a No Aircraft Noise versus Liberal finish.
Right. Now, we were going to have a look at the seat of Marrickville now, but I'd rather hold that for a moment and instead go to the seat of Port Jackson. The reason I want to hold Marrickville is that Andrew Rafshorgi has taken a brief leave of absence. Can I say why, Patricia? I understand nature called. He'll be back with us shortly, but let's have a look at the seat of Port Jackson.
Port Jackson there, where Sandra Norrie for a while there seemed to be under siege by Hall Greenland of the No Aircraft Noise Party. We only have 15.4% of the vote there, but Sandra Norrie would appear to be way ahead. Let's just have a look at the estimate there for Sandra Norrie. She is a very strong Labor candidate in that seat, very strong local candidate, and she would retain that seat easily. The No Aircraft Noise Party, again, it would seem that even if people were angry about No Aircraft Noise, perhaps either they voted or gave their second preference to Sandra Norrie or decided not to blame the local Labor candidate, the local Labor member, for the aircrafts flying overhead at every minute.
In fact, the vote's possibly got up. I think the important point there was last time the independent candidate was Dawn Fraser. The people who supported Dawn Fraser aren't necessarily those people who switch over to supporting No Aircraft Noise. So I think that while Norrie's vote looked low last time, it was a different sort of vote than what's occurred with No Aircraft Noise Party.
Return to the status quo, effectively. All right, let's have a look now at some of the really crucial seats. Andrew Rafshorgi's not back with us yet, so we'll hang off on Marrickville for a while, but I think he'll be pleased with the result from what we've been hearing there. In any event, let's go back to the crucial seats where this election is going to be won or lost. And at this stage, just to remind you, we think that it's likely, the most likely result, is a hung parliament, but this time with a Labor minority government in power. But that's not definite yet. It's still possible there could be a Liberal minority government, and it's also possible there could be a Labor majority government. But we'll get a better idea of that fairly shortly, once we get a better picture of some of these crucial seats. Let's start with the Blue Mountains.
Blue Mountains indeed was one of the most marginal seats, always has been for the Liberal Party for a while now, and Barry Morris put the spanner in the works there. Jennifer Scott, the Liberal Party candidate, 7,284 votes, but have a look at Bob Davis, the ALP candidate. He's, of course, the former finance minister in the previous Labor government. And if we have a look at the computer estimate, what it's telling us there is that, well, the ALP is slightly ahead, but we have to factor in the Barry Morris.
We should look at the swings on that seat. It's very important to look at the swings and what's occurring there. Now, there's a big increase in the independent vote. Now, Morris's vote has gone up 17%. The Liberal vote is down 15%, just under 15%. So most of that loss of Liberal vote has gone to Barry Morris. The Labor vote hasn't changed since the last election. So what's happened there is a shift away. But what has increased is there's a big vote for the independent, Gall, and the Democrat. So there has been a sort of a general shift to the left after preferences. But on the primary votes, it doesn't look like Labor's improved, but after preferences, last time Labor ran at the bottom of the ticket and got terrible preference flows. I think that looks like a two-party preferred swing to Labor and enough to win the seat.
that occurred, of course, we will have lost the seat as a result of Mr Morris running.
But Mr Morris has been doing his best, he said, to help Jennifer Scott get across the line.
Yes.
Well, enough said, you think, then. All right, let's have a look at the seat of Badgerys Creek now, which of course is where Anne Cohen's been battling all right.
And Cohen there on those primary figures with 70.3% of the vote counted could be in trouble there. The Labor candidate, Diane Beamer, has in fact only marginally a little bit more than Anne Cohen, and it's predicting that the Libs are still ahead in that seat. Libs will still get ahead in that seat. So you must be feeling pretty happy there, Mr Pickering. Anne Cohen, is it too early, you think, or?
Well, it is too early, obviously.
We may not know the result
close,
tonight.
But, as I've said, Anne Cohen's a very good campaigner, and I would expect she'd hold on. But she'll obviously be upset at that result.
I'm not so sure about that. I think we've got votes in here which show that there's 9 votes separating the two candidates, but we've got some big ALP booths to come in. I would be saying that Badgerys Creek is going to be one that brings us into government.
There was nothing written on the cubicle wall for you to bring back to us. There's no special intelligence on that. All right, let's have a look now at the seat of Murwillumbah, which the Nationals have been struggling to hold up there near the border.
Murwillumbah again a seat that the Labor Party has high hopes for. We have the figures there with Don Beck versus Trevor Wilson, the ALP candidate, and of course the key independent there, Jade Hurley. Let's just have a look at the primary vote with 51.5% of the vote counted. National Party is marginally ahead of the ALP, but we have to factor in Jade Hurley there and of course the other independents. Let's just have a look at the estimate there. That's a seat that we would say is in doubt, because the computer tells us it's in doubt.
There's an awful lot of preferences again in that seat. That's the difficulty. When you've got one independent with 24% of the vote, I mean, if you get a big exhausted vote or it doesn't flow as strongly, it's very hard for the Labor Party, who are 11% behind on primaries, to catch up.
What percentage preference are you extending for Mr Hurley to the National Party?
60% of his preferences to Labor and 20% exhausted.
Yeah, well, we would think it would be much higher to the National Party than that, 60%.
Yeah. You think there'll be a bigger leak?
We do, yes.
If that's the case, then...
It's the same thing last time. There was a lot of concern in the seat, but when the preferences for Mr Hurley were counted, we won the seat comfortably.
There's no chance of Hurley getting up?
No. Look, we got a substantial count there, and he's still behind. It would be tough. He's now, 900 votes behind. There's not enough votes from the minor parties to put him ahead.
Okay, let's have a look now at the seat of Bathurst, which has also been one that's been closely fought all night, I think.
Bathurst is a seat that the National Party has high hopes for, with 44.2% of the vote counted. If we have a look at the percentage of the primary vote, the National Party appears to be ahead there with 52.6%. Let's just have a look at the estimate. The computer says that the seat is in doubt. So that seat is in doubt at the moment, but the National Party is quite confident there.
I'm just looking at some of the booths yet to come. There's a 2,000 vote Lithgow booth, a Corwolf booth, I'm not sure the pronunciation. There's a very big Bathurst City booth, Wallerawang, Vale of Clwyd, all the Lithgow booths.
Wallerawang would be a huge Labor vote.
So that's why that graphic looked like it was giving it to the Labor Party, surprisingly. There's a lot of those booths to come.
Okay, I'm about to have a word to a National Party official, Duncan Gay, but before we do, I thought we might have a look at the statewide trends. It might just give us something to get an overview on. Can we have the statewide trends up now, please? There we go. So
we've got 56.6% of the vote counted. Combined Lib National Party vote is around 51.6, ALP 48.4.
As for swings?
It's a very similar swing to before, except the swing to the ALP seems to be coming down a little. The swing, if you combine the swing to the National Party and the swing away from the Liberal Party, it's a slight swing, very slight swing away from the government.
0.7, but crossing down to you on the floor there, Duncan Gay, from the National Party, it looks like the Libs have let you down, doesn't it?
I wouldn't say that, Andrew. It's a long way till the end of the night. Ted's watching me up there.
Watching and waiting to pounce, I think.
He knows what the figures mean.
Yes, and what, as you were rightly pointing out before, I think partly what it means is where you run and what that some people are running in seats now. I mean, there's Libs running in seats they weren't before and vice versa and so on.
Yes.
So the overall picture, as you see it there, Duncan Gay?
Well, Andrew, I've got some late figures from our scrutinies on both Bathurst and Murwillumbah, which gives me a lot of heart. It indicates to us that the National Party may be up one seat. with us holding Murwillumbah. In Bathurst, with 24,975 votes counted, we give Clough 11,158, Toole 10,816, and the Greens 1,500 votes. That would only have the moves of Blaney and Oberon, and as your panel would know, Blaney and Oberon tend to favour the Conservative parties. It'll be a tight one, Bathurst, but the indications are that it's going to move to us, and that's the way our polling's been reading it for the last week or so.
And what about Murwillumbah?
Well, in Murwillumbah, it's pretty much on line ball with the last election result. Our scrutineers up there tell us with one move to come that tends to favour the National Party. On a two-party preferred, we're 600 votes ahead, which is as tight as you could have it. At Benora Point...
Hang on, sorry, 600 ahead
600
with one booth that normally favours you?
Yeah.
Well, that's, I would have thought that was less than tight, isn't it?
Well, that's working on their allocation of preferences, and allocation of preferences before they are allocated, as you well know, is not quite an exact science. At Benora Point, Jade Hurley's preferences, which are going to be important in this seat, there was 35% of his preferences exhausting, 40% going to the Labor Party, 45%, and 20% to us, which is pretty much the same as we got last time, because 40% went to us and 60% went to Labor. But if that exhaustion rate keeps up, that's going to make the seat retained by Don Beckett, about the same percentage as last time.
And Coffs Harbour was also a seat that you would have been anxious about coming into the evening, perhaps?
Yes, it was. It's very much safe for us. Our scrutineers say that it's safe. We're also concerned about Grafton, and Grafton, we won every move in that seat, and Northern Tablelands has been retained by us. Peter Cochrane's had a swing in Monero, and Adrian Cruikshank is safe in his seat as well.
Do you think, just finally, Duncan, that the most likely result at the moment, though, is a minority Labor government?
No, I believe that it is looking very much like a hung parliament with us in charge.
Status quo?
Status quo. We're going up in a couple and going down in a couple, but it's still a long night ahead.
Good to talk to you. Thanks for that. OK, let's have a look at a couple of more crucial seats, and one of them, of course, is South Coast, which the Liberals were hoping to win. Well, I don't think there's much doubt that they're going to the last time we looked at it.
Yeah, South Coast, the seat where Eric Ellis, up until about 4 weeks ago, didn't stand a chance. He now looks like he could get home there in South Coast. Let's have a look at the percentage of the primary vote. Liberal Party ahead of the Labor Party and ahead of the Independent as well. We can't actually it's not much point doing an estimate because of the swing, but let's have a look at the swing. We can't do an estimate because the preferences go anywhere in that seat because of the Independent not directing anywhere. It's a huge swing away from John Hatton Jr., a swing to the Liberal Party of 12.5%, but a higher swing to the ALP of 13.8%.
Significant that I think it shows that Hatton's votes come from both parties. So if that's the case, it's highly unlikely that those preferences are going to heavily favour Labor of the people that are left. So you have to say that Liberal would win that seat.
You should also remember in the last election, the Labor Party deliberately ran dead in the South Coast to ensure that their preferences would go to Hatton. So it's not a true reflection of Labor Party position in 91 as to Labor. And Labor's come back to its true vote now that the Independent's no longer relevant.
OK, let's have another look at Ivan Petch's seat of Gladesville. Well, hanging on by his fingernails last time we saw.
Right, we've got more than 68% of the vote counted there in Gladesville. The percentage of the primary vote for Ivan Petch is 42%, ALP 39%. Now it's clear that on estimates there the seat is still in doubt. Now that's one that we may not see a result for tonight. It seems to be one that even as the vote progresses, it's still just as close as it was before.
And our people there are certainly not concerned in Gladesville, I'm sure of that.
We're very confident of Gladesville. I mean, it is a matter of like that. We're confident, but not having claimed that they're not conceding, but obviously worried.
Did we bring up your seat earlier?
No, we didn't. We made allowances for the fact that Dr. Rashorgi had to be away from us for a moment or two. He was checking some figures on the wall. But let's see if we can get Marrickville up here at the moment. Can we get the seat of Marrickville up? Here we go.
Well, Marrickville, of course, Dr. Khashoggi has already claimed victory in that seat on our program earlier in the night, but with 47.5% of the vote counted, I think the main thing to look at here is the no aircraft noise party, and I think, Anthony, you wanted to say something in particular about that.
This is the seat most affected by the airport noise. Andrew F. Khashoggi's just fallen below 50%, so he's not going to lose the seat. He can't lose the seat on preferences. His vote's too high. No aircraft noise has got 25%. The Liberal Party have fallen to 12%. Now, I live in the electorate. When I went to vote in Newtown this morning, there was no Liberals handing out how to vote cards. I'd be surprised how many polling booths there were. There was a deliberate tactic to run third, but it hasn't been enough because they haven't forced the Labor vote down enough. So that's a very comfortable win for Andrew.
You were a little worried coming into the night, though, weren't you? Seriously?
Oh, there's no doubt that the noise was causing a major concern to everybody in the electorate, and the idea of how to complain about that was very closely in people's minds. I think they've taken the advice of the Mayor of Marrickville, Barry Cotter, to say vote for Labor, show your Labor voters, and write stop the noise on the ballot paper, so we could be clearly showing to my federal colleagues that they are Labor voters who are very angry. And I think that is what we're going to find when we actually look at the ballot papers themselves.
All right, well, let's try and take stock for a moment of the overall position, if we can, here. Now, no one has won or lost this election yet, that's for sure, but there are a few signs that look perhaps a little better for Labor than for the coalition, but I'm sure you're not prepared to concede, or not even that, perhaps.
I certainly don't even agree with the statement. It seems to me that we have an excellent chance of winning Bathurst. I would think we've won South Coast. I would be confident we would retain Blue Mountains, and certainly Gladesville's in trouble. Now, I don't concede Badgerys Creek nor Murwillumbah, and under those circumstances, we'd actually be governing in our right with a little majority at long last. So I don't consider the government has in any way lost this election. At this stage, we're in quite good position.
No, I didn't say you had lost, but I just thought maybe the odds favoured Labor at the moment. What do you think, Andrew?
I think the odds do favour Labor at the moment. I think Bathurst we're going to hold. I think we will be winning Blue Mountains. We certainly are very clearly showing strength in Gladesville, and I think Badgerys Creek, we are, from the figures we've been getting, also looking very good there. Murwillumbah, I think probably, I'm not prepared to call yet, but I think it's also looking good for us.
Well, look, we've got those 5 critical seats there that are in doubt up on a graphic at the moment that you can see, and in each one of them there is a swing against the sitting member, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And in some cases quite significant swings, and it shows you that in 3 of them the Labor Party is ahead, and 2 the coalition is ahead. But only one of those seats is actually held by the Labor Party at the moment, so
that's
that
right.
augurs well
Let's say
for the Labor Party.
Yes, it's showing that we're picking up 2 seats there. That's what it shows at the moment, and I think
on track to
on those. And I would say that Badgerys and Murwillumbah, although there's on those figures a slight favouring of the government, I would think that from what our scrutineers are saying, I'm much more positive than those figures are showing.
If that trend continues, what you're seeing is Labor picking up 2 seats, Liberals picking up South Coast, Labor a net gain of 1. But then we keep hearing word about Bathurst, what's happening in Bathurst, which brings it back to status quo.
All primary votes are counted. I understand the Labor Party is 300 votes ahead in Bathurst, with 3,000 pre-poll and postal votes to come in, which local scrutineers assure us will favour the Liberal National Party. So Bathurst is too close to call. Indeed, all these seats are too close to call, and it could go anyway.
We weren't calling them. I mean, we were saying that they were in doubt, and simply that one's ahead. But you're right, they are very tight.
Very tight indeed.
Well, let's see what
the disappointing thing is that we can have 52% of the primary vote and be in this sort of a position that it isn't fair.
Okay, well, let's go down to Gerard Henderson and Malcolm McGregor again to see how they're feeling about the situation. To you first, Malcolm, on this occasion. I mean, do you think we can tell yet whether there's likely to be well, it looks like a minority government one way or the other, I think, but what do you feel about that?
I think it's starting to look like Bathurst is the absolute bellwether seat in this election, and I wouldn't like to call it, but I suspect if Labor hold Bathurst, they will form a minority government, and I'm in Andrew Khashoggi's court on this. I think they're more on the front foot in the seats that matter at the moment. They've got a legitimate claim still on Badgerys Creek and, to a lesser extent, Murwillumbah. I suspect if Labor hold Bathurst, they win. If they win one of Murwillumbah or Badgerys Creek, they'll get 50 seats.
Gerard, what's your estimate?
Well, I don't disagree with that analysis, although, as we're all saying, it's too early to call. I mean, if I could sum up the feeling on the floor that I'm getting around here is that Labor's not confident, but the coalition is concerned.
Yeah, no, that's a good comment. Thanks very much for that, and indeed that was endorsed, Gerard, you might be interested to know, by Ted Pickering here, saying it was a fair comment too, and Andrew Ripshaw.
We say is that all the leaders will hold their seats. John Fay, the Premier there, with 48.5% of the vote counted, is well ahead, and if we just look at the computer's estimate, it will tell us that Mr Fay will hold that seat with an increased swing. If you look at the swingometer there, just swung up, so Mr Fay's increased his majority there in Southern Highlands. Maroubra, Mr Carr's seat.
In any event, it looks like...
Very safe seat for Bob Carr. I mean, it's hardly worth... With more than half the vote counted, the estimate there is the primary vote, he's way ahead, and he will hold that seat. And Ian Armstrong's country seat, National Party seat of Lachlan, it's again a very safe seat for the National Party. Mr Armstrong there is doing fine, and Mr Armstrong will hold the seat of Lachlan. I'm sure he's very pleased to know.
Yes, again, no surprises there, of course, but it is interesting to see the figures just once in a while of the...
Camden's, of course, the electorate where the government chose to launch its campaign, and Mr Fay's actually spent a lot of time in Camden in this campaign. Ms Kernahan there would be confident of winning that seat. We'll just have a look at the percentage vote. She'd be confident with that, and the computer will probably estimate that the Liberal Party will retain that seat. So Liz Kernahan, in a seat which was one of the seats the ALP wanted to claim after tonight, Liz Kernahan is taking that seat.
Not as big as the AGB air poll this week, but certainly a comfortable victory.
Okay, now let's have a look at the Keating seat. Well, that's what he wanted it to be, his seat anyway. Tony Keating was representing the Labor Party here, but he had to try and wrest it from the Libs.
Yeah, Maitland, again, a name that would denote the Labor Party, but in fact the actual make-up of the seat and the demographics is it's actually more of a Liberal Party seat, and Peter Blackmore, as we've seen, has increased his hold on that seat. We'll just have a look at the estimate there, and Peter Blackmore will hold the seat of Maitland, despite the fact that the pendulum tells us it's the government's most marginal seat.
I think we should look at the swings in that seat. There's something very important about that result. At the last election, both major parties got less than 40% of the vote. There was a bloke called Bob Horn ran as an independent. He's now the federal member for Paterson. He's one of the few people who've ever run against the Labor Party and been rewarded with a seat at the next election. Now, in fact, if you look at the swings there was a huge swing, a huge vote for those minor parties. That has gone quite solidly to Blackmore. So it shows the peculiarities of what happens when an independent runs in that seat. So the Labor Party's made very few advances in that seat.
The Labor Party had high hopes for, but it would seem that Chris Downey, being a good local member and the high profile as a minister in the government, with 80.3% of the vote counted, he's doing fine down there in Sutherland. Let's just have a look at the estimate. Yes, Chris Downey will hold that seat, despite Genevieve Rankin standing as the local mayor. That's all the booths.
Comfortably won that one with a substantial swing to him, in fact, in the end.
Was that one you'd really hope to win, Andrew Shawley?
We certainly were looking at it early on. Because of what it looked like on the two-party preferred, it certainly was within our grasp in that sense. But the demography is a difficult one for us to make much inroads into. And I suppose having a minister as a local member does help.
OK, well, let's go up to Coffs Harbour now, another seat that Labor, early on at least, was hoping to pick up, this time from the Nats.
Well, I think, as we've already heard, Duncan Gay says they're quite confident up there in Coffs Harbour. Sitting member there is Andrew Fraser, who actually...
you should look at the swing dial on this one.
He's home and hosed. Well, let's just have a look at the estimate quickly. What the computer tells us is that, yes, he's home and hosed, he'll retain the seat, but we'll have a look at the swing.
That swing dial there, that showed the swing was actually to the National Party. All the hope was of the Labor Party picking up that seat. In fact, the swing went the other way.
Yeah, it's just
the Nationals increased that vote.
A mild swing to the National Party, yes. But in fact, he reduced the safety of that seat last time around, Andrew Fraser, didn't he?
Yeah, so perhaps he's building up the sitting member factor, perhaps all the talks. I mean, Andrew Fraser's only got 30% of the vote. It may increase as 5 of the city booths come, but it's still, he's done quite well, Andrew Fraser.
No question about that. You wanted to say something, Ted Pickering. I can see you limbering up for it.
Andrew, my advisors are telling me, first of all, I've talked to Anne Cohen in Badger's Creek, and she's an old campaigner and she really does know her electorate. She advises me that she is still confident of holding the seat. With 11,000 votes counted, she still has major Liberal Party booths to come in. So she's assuring me there's no suggestion that she's lost that seat. And I'm also
claiming it.
It's still got to be counted. But I'm also being warned that Manly's a lot closer than we all thought earlier on, and that's a seat that's now got to go back for another hard look, I'm told.
Well, we'll do that very shortly too, go back to Manly, but I think first we might have a look at Coogee, Ernie Page's seat, which we haven't seen for a while, so we must throw up Coogee there for a moment.
Coogee is the Labor Party's most marginal seat. Ernie Page is up against Margaret Martin, who is quite well known in the electorate as well with her local council work. With 62.2% of the vote counted, Ernie Page is ahead there. Let's just have a look quickly at the estimate. Well, Ernie Page will retain the seat, which is what we said. He's increased his margin. It's what we said earlier in the night as well.
It's interesting though, isn't it? A couple of these seats where both sides thought they had a damn good chance of picking them up have actually drifted away from them further.
Yes, yes.
Okay, look, I wonder if we should go to Manly now. Is it possible to flick over to Manly? We might do that, take up your challenge, Ted Pickering, and just see if things are getting much tighter there for Peter McDonald than earlier they looked.
Manly, the Liberal candidate David Oldfield. Peter McDonald would have, I mean, he appears to be behind there just on those primaries, but he won't be once we have a look at the estimate. We'll have a look at the percentages and let's have a look at the estimate. No, he's ahead, but it's still very close, but Independent will retain. Well, our computer estimate is that Peter McDonald...
Still to come is the Manly booth, which is over 4,000, and he was a 52% McDonald vote last time. Manly West, another 1,700, was 53% McDonald. And Seaforth East, which is 1,200, which was one of the Liberal booths. If those figures continue, if those booths come in with a similar pattern to last time, McDonald will win.
Yeah, it does look pretty good for him, I think, at this stage. Okay, let's go back to this run of seats that we were looking at before, a couple of marginal Labor seats. Cogra we were looking at, where Brian Langton was...
Cogra, which has been a bit tight for Brian Langton, but they're the final figures. Okay, well, Brian Langton's clearly ahead there. Let's just have a look at the bars of the percentage of the vote. It's been close. It's a very close call. But he's ahead with the preferences factored in and the booths factored in.
3.3%.
Just over the line.
He's 3.5% ahead, and there's only 7% of minor party votes. You can't possibly turn that into a victory for the Liberal Party.
No, we're going to hold that.
You're not quite so sure, Ted?
I'm not so sure about that, no.
I mean, there is a bit of an unknown over those Democrat votes.
There is a big unknown on the Democrat vote, and I certainly would be saying that away.
Just to explain, the Democrats have allocated their preferences to the Liberal Party or away from Labor.
And the Call to Australia also.
But there's some doubt as to whether how strongly that will hold, of course.
It certainly is, but if there was a strong flow of both preferences from the Call to Australia and Democrats, we could win that seat.
You'd have to get 70% of the Democrat preferences.
That's right. Well, they issued a ticket to us, and normally when you issue tickets, you get almost 100%. So it'll be interesting to see what's happening.
Not for the Democrats, you know what they're like.
We'll agree on that one.
All right, let's now go to John Murray's seat of Drummoyne, which is very affected by airport noise, of course.
Drummoyne, as we've already discussed it, the No Aircraft Noise Party has not polled as well there as we would have thought on the previous coverage. John Murray, the ALP candidate, if we have a look at the percentage vote, he's just ahead of the Liberal Party. We'll have a look at the estimate there with 40.4% of the vote counted. ALP will retain the seat. John Murray's fine in Drummoyne.
The only danger for Labor was there is if they fell behind the Liberals. If they're ahead, the number of exhausted No Aircraft Noise Party votes will just push them over the line, so there's no problem there as long as they stay ahead of the Liberals.
Okay, let's move on to the seat of Hurstville now.
Hurstville, held by Labor's Morris Yemmer. Mr Frawley there, a local policeman's lived there for 42 years. 65.3% of the vote counted. ALP is ahead, and we just have a look at the estimate there. ALP would be well ahead. ALP will retain the seat.
Well, another seat, of course, which the ALP has held, although they were under some pressure, was the seat of Coogee. Now, Ernie Page holds it by a fairly slim margin, or at least he did until tonight, but I think he might have actually got an improvement in his position tonight. He joins us from the floor there now. Ernie Page, good evening to you.
You, Andrew?
I'm well, thanks. You must be feeling pretty chuffed.
Oh, yes, I had a good win. I've had, on a two-party preferred basis, about a 6% swing.
Now, there was a time in this election when the Libs were feeling they had a good chance to knock you over. Were you worried at any stage?
No, I was not. No, they just don't know what the electorate's all about. I was never in doubt. I believe I've serviced the electorate very well for 4 years. And the campaign was really just a finishing off of what was a 4-year program.
Oh, well, you were obviously never in any doubt anyway.
No,
some other people in other places were.
Well, the media was not either, because very rarely was did the media say that Coogee would change hands.
It was always conceded that you had a good hold on that seat, but nonetheless, you know, it doesn't take much of a swing to knock you over, does it?
Well, possibly not, but it didn't occur this time.
No, well, in fact, it now will take quite a swing, about 8.5%, I think.
Yes. Well,
all right, well, congratulations. Thanks for joining us tonight.
They couldn't get rid of me in 88. That was a crunch time.
Indeed. Well done. You survived the game. Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's time we try and take stock again of just the overall position here, and we're still, because of the very close situation in a couple of critical seats, it's a bit hard to tell you exactly what's going to be the outcome here, but we're starting to get fairly close, I think. Let's first of all have a look at the statewide voting trends, and you have to remember that perhaps this is out of interest really, because it doesn't really reflect that much on the final position, except that it is interesting to say, of course, that at the moment in this existing parliament, or the one that's just closing down, the coalition had 1% more of the vote than they've got there now.
So it's still very, very close. Again, the swing to the ALP is consistent with what we've seen throughout the night. The swing to the Libs and National Party, it's negligible once you cancel out for the National Party, the swing towards them and the swing away from the Liberal Party.
Okay, well, let's have a look, if we can, at the changing position in the chamber itself. Bums on seats graphic should give us some idea of how those voting trends reflect or translate into actual members of Parliament. Can we have a look at our chamber graphic here?
I think what you can see there is that the Labor Party have got a definite 46 seats, the Liberals and National a definite 45, and 3 others. If we factor through to our prediction, it's showing 48 Coalition, 48 Labor, 3 Independents. One of them is Tony Windsor. Now, of course, if the Labor Party pick up Gladesville, then that would become 1 seat the other way. So, I mean, this is going to come down to 1 seat as to which is the bigger party. Now, this is, if you look, the last Parliament was remarkable. If this goes on, the next one will be even more remarkable.
Certainly will. I say my latest information from Manly, with only 2 boos to count or to come in, we are 48 votes behind on a 2-party preferred basis. And I understand in one of those boos yet to come in, we're in front. So Manly is very tight.
It's very tight indeed. What are the 2 boos, though? Are they the
Harbour and Manly North.
Do you know those boos, Anthony?
Sorry?
Manly North and...
I'll just have a look. I'll tell you which booths to come in. The booths to come in are Manly and Manly West in our figures, which have got McDonald ahead.
Right.
So, yeah.
Anyway, it does sound like it is still pretty tight there.
It is.
Although from our computers leans towards giving it to Dr. McDonald still, doesn't it?
Because the big unknown in that seat again, as I said, the Labor candidate actually told the electorate not to extend preferences to Dr. McDonald, and it will be interesting to see just how many Labor voters heeded his call.
And the donkey vote would favour the Liberals.
And the donkey vote will favour the Liberals.
I never let it be said.
I'll be counting that one again next week, I can assure you.
I think there'll be a lot that'll be counted next week. I think there's a number of seats that are going to be so close that there'll be a lot of scrutiny is out.
There'll be some gun scrutiny is out.
And the big guns will be out scrutineering on a range of seats, because it's really going to depend on so few about who's going to go. It's going to be a very close election.
Ted's just getting some even later information here, I think, on
well, with 2 boos to come, McDonald 11,672, Oldfield 11,624. That's what I call a close result.
It's an interesting election, isn't it? Okay, let's have a look, glance now at some seats that we haven't seen yet, like Parramatta, for example.
Yeah, Parramatta is one we haven't looked at. In fact, it's interesting because Parramatta is up there considered to be safe for the ALP now, whereas last election it was one of the cliffhanger seats. Gabriel Harrison there, the wife of the candidate, the former candidate Andrew Zakowski. ALP is doing fine there with most of the votes counted. ALP retains the seat.
Down 3% on the by-election figure, though.
But that's
I see. So the swing there was compared to the previous
6% swing based on the last election. It's down 3% on the by-election. That's probably what the normal result would have been without the by-election.
Okay, let's have a look now at the seat of Pete's. I'm not sure if we might have seen this once already.
We did have a brief look at this earlier on the board, but not in the computer. Murray Andrews is the ALP candidate there. It was the seat of Tony Doyle, who sadly passed away. With 61.2% of the vote counted, ALP holds the seat of Pete's, will hold the seat of Pete's.
Now to the seat of Blacktown in Western Sydney.
Blacktown is Pam Allen's seat. It would be a real upset if Pam Allen didn't win Blacktown. We've got 35.4% of the vote counted. Pam Allen's well ahead on the primary vote and will retain the seat of Blacktown.
And now to a seat which shouldn't have had much interest at all in it earlier in the election. But you'd think it should be a very safe seat for the Labor Party. But it got a lot of attention thanks to the colourful candidate.
It had a colourful candidate, and indeed in Rocky Gattalari, who'd written a book. We actually have Cabramatta. We actually have Georges River at the moment. up there that we're looking at. So let's have a look at Georges River. That's Marie Fakara there, the Liberal Party candidate who took over after Terry Griffiths stepped down and decided not to run as an independent. And Marie Fakara will hold the seat at 79.4% of the vote counted. If we just have a quick look at the primaries and then a quick look at the estimate. Yeah, Marie Fakara has the seat of Georges River.
Okay, can we actually have a look at Cabramatta or not? Having given it all the hype, it'd be nice to have a look at Cabramatta.
Okay, Cabramatta, there we go. ALP, Reba Ma is way ahead with most of the vote counted. I think she might have won there. Rocky Gadolari, it's never been a seat which the Liberal Party would have thought that they would get anyway, and I think it just became the spotlight was on that seat because of Rocky Gadolari's book, which Reba Ma made much mileage out of.
Again, didn't match the by-election figure because you'd expect that it was an extraordinary by-election result and an extraordinary reason for it.
Fighting out of his division, I fear there. Let's have a look at Liverpool. We haven't seen Liverpool for a while, I don't think.
Liverpool again is just two candidates running in the seat of Liverpool. Paul Lynch for the Labor Party will win that seat easily. If we just quickly go through primaries and quickly have a look at the estimate, yes, Paul Lynch will hold that seat.
There's something interesting there. We've got all the booths in and the percentage counted is only 68%. There's no informal vote. On that figure, you're looking at a very high informal vote in that electorate. The two candidate contests up, there's ticks and crosses confusion. That's unusual for that lower vote with nearly all the booths in. I'll just check on that if there's any booths to come. One booth in Lanier, which is only another 2,000 votes. So you'd be looking at a very high informal vote again in that electorate, which is a bit of a worry.
Okay, let's go west of Sydney now to the seat of Orange.
Now, Orange is a seat we haven't looked at yet tonight, but it's held by the Police Minister, Gary West. It's a very safe National Party area up there with quite a majority of the vote counted. He's clearly ahead on primary votes. He's actually achieved a swing towards him. If you look at the swing, swing slightly away from him on that swingometer there, but he'll hold the seat of Orange.
Very comfortably indeed, and I'm sure that Peter Collins will hang on to the seat of Willoughby too, but I haven't seen the figures yet.
Again, that would be a shock if Mr Collins didn't hold Willoughby. This is just going through, just giving you a look at these seats. Peter Collins will hold the seat of Willoughby with 37% of the vote counted. On primaries, he's well ahead, and of course the estimate will show that he's still well ahead and he'll hold the seat.
His main challenger was an independent last time on the closure of the Castle Craig School, if I remember.
That's right.
Okay, now to one of the National Party seats,
Burrinjuck. Liberal Party, although you can be forgiven for saying that. You can be forgiven for saying that, Andrew, because he was often aligned with Peter Cochrane.
I think I even coloured it in the wrong way on my map.
Often mistaken for a National Party person, but he clearly holds the seat of Burrinjuck.
Okay.
And Ku-ring-gai. Ku-ring-gai is the seat of former Premier Nick Greiner, now held by Stephen O'Doherty, former 2GB announcer. He holds that seat quite comfortably. There was some concern about the independent there, Mick Gallagher, but seems to have been unfounded. We'll just have a look at the estimate. Yes,
Gallagher gave O'Doherty a terrible scare at the by-election, but I mean, it's just faded with the state election.
By-elections can be a bit reversed, can't they? We've had a look at the overall trends throughout the state, but let's have a look now, break it down to the Sydney situation for a start, and then we'll have a look at the country. But in Sydney, the voting trends should look this way. Can we have a look at the trend graphic on that, please?
Trend for Sydney? Well, you would expect the National Party not to be polling in the city because, in fact, they don't run any candidates in the city. The Liberal Party and the ALP, very close there in terms of the trends. If we have a look at the swings, though, a swing of 3.7 to the ALP, a swing away from the Liberal Party of 3.2. What would you say about that, though, Mr Pickering, in terms of Sydney now rather than across the state? That's to be a swing away from the coalition or from the Liberal Party?
I think it simply reflects in the city. We put all of our energies into the marginal seats and deliberately took away resources from some of our more blue ribbon seats and allowed the feed back. I mean, that was a strategy which has worked in the sense that we've shorn up any attack, with the possible exception of Gladesville. And
that's a tried and true Labor Party tactic.
Well, indeed. I mean, two warring partners joined in the marginal seats, and as a result, almost drawn in the marginal seats.
Just interesting there that the Labor vote's up on the North Shore about 3%, and it's up about 3% in the western suburbs, but pretty much the same in the inner city down south and in the Central Coast. So it looks like the factor of the safe seat and the party's not campaigning in this has had a big factor. So there's an overall 2% swing to the government in the city, but that's because you'd really have to look at the seats to see where that swing makes sense. So it's remarkable.
Well, let's have a look at how the swing, or how the voting trends look in the country.
Country, well, you would expect the National Party to be doing well in the country areas, which is where its stronghold is. We just have a look at the swings there in terms of the National Party in particular. Well, the National Party is, in fact, a swing towards the National Party in country areas, a slight swing away from the Liberal Party, and a very slight swing to the ALP. That may be because they're running in seats which they didn't particularly run in before, or just, just a very slight swing, a negligible swing to the ALP anyway.
2 seats that we did run on this occasion,
Bathurst
compared to last, Bathurst and Broken Hill.
There's a few sort of regional trends in that stuff as well. That there's a bit of an increase in the west, a big increase west of the divide where the National Party suffered last time, but it's almost status quo on the north coast overall by the look of it.
Let's have a look now at the close Sydney regional areas of Hunter and Illawarra and see what the trends have been there.
Well, you would expect those to be quite good for the Labor Party because they are traditional Labor Party strongholds, and yes, with 70% of the vote counted, the Labor Party is 55.9. But let's just have a look at the swing there. See, there's a 3.3% swing to the ALP, but also a swing to the Liberal Party and a slight swing away from the National Party. But the National Party wouldn't be contesting many of the seats down in Illawarra.
In two-party terms, there's almost no change in those areas.
Our panellists here are having a bit of a laugh over the latest figures they've got in from Gladesville.
Andrew, I'm advised in Gladesville that at the moment on a two-party preferred basis we're 40 votes ahead with 2 booths to come in. I'm told in one of those booths we're going to lose 100 votes, and in the other one we're going to be 30 in front. So on Sunday, some of us are going to be out looking at Gladesville.
I think a lot of people are going to be at Gladesville looking very clearly at how those preferences are really going. Formal and informal votes a lot.
Okay, well, Ted Picker's getting a bit more intelligence at the moment. We'll come back to him for that one.
We've got over half the votes counted there. It will be held by Peter Nagel. He's got a very high primary vote, and he will hold the seat of Auburn. Baulkham Hills is Wayne Merton. He was a short-lived minister under the Greiner government. He holds that seat with quite a safe margin. We've got more than half the vote counted. He's doing very well in the primaries.
The anti-immigration party have got 8.2% there.
Did they stand in many seats?
They've stood in about 15 seats. I think that's the first time I've particularly noticed them. They have got the donkey vote, but 8.2% in a pretty middle-class electorate is rather interesting.
Okay, now let's have a look at the seat of Campbelltown.
Campbelltown is the Michael Knight, the man who swapped factions, is now in the right faction of the Labor Party, seen as an up-and-coming member of the Labor Party front bench. 76.7% of the vote counted. He's well ahead on the primary vote, and he'll retain the seat of Campbelltown for Michael Knight.
And the anti-immigrants have got 8.7 there as well.
Interesting.
Coming a consistent pattern there, Okay, let's now look at the seat of Murwillumbah.
Again, a seat we've been coming to over and over again tonight because of the close call up there, held by the National Party's Don Beck, Trevor Wilson and Jade Hurley, the independent, Trevor Wilson, the National Party candidate there. The ALP candidate, sorry, Don Beck is of course the National Party candidate. Let's just have a look at what the computer is estimating for us on that seat. And it has the National Party ahead, so we'll have a look at the swing.
There was a very big independent vote here last time. Now that's declined at this election. There were 2 independents, Hurley and Max Boyd, actually was that
Max Boyd, yes, he ran the last.
And if you look at this, the National Party vote has gone up, the Labor Party vote has gone down, which means if the Labor Party is going to win it, they've got to get a very strong flow of preferences from those other candidates.
I think Don Beck knows that because I've got the advantage of seeing him on a monitor at the moment. And he doesn't look unhappy at all, does he? No. Don Beck, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Now, we were just speculating on the fact that you're seeming in fairly high spirits there, although we've all got your seat as being very tight.
Yes, I think it is very tight, but we're feeling very confident. It's a result that when we look at the information that's coming back from my scrutineers, that you're going to find there's a certain amount of wastage as far as the Hurley vote is concerned, and a lot of people did go 1 Hurley, 2 to Beck. So on that basis, we think we'll pick up enough there to win.
But, I mean, how confident are you? I mean, obviously you give yourself at least a decent chance, but, I mean, are you very confident or not?
Yes, I'm very confident. I feel sure that I'll be part of the New South Wales government. I'll be there for another 4 years.
All right, Don. You've got a few supporters there who agree with you anyway. Thanks, Don Beck. Oh, heavens, that's well rewarded there. Okay, let's now go to a couple more seats that we can have a look at. which we haven't seen before, the seat of Cessnock.
Cessnock, one of those seats which was a shock for the Labor Party in the 88 election. It was held by, it went to the Liberal Party. This time around, though, it's not going to be a shock for the Labor Party because Stan Neely, their long-serving candidate, except for that hiatus between 88 and 91, he's got a big swing to Stan Neely in Cessnock.
9% up.
He's 9% up on
9%
his
swing. That's about the biggest swing for Labor we've seen.
Good old Stan Neely.
That's just that seat returning to its normal position.
I always say that when we get a swing to it. No, I think it shows not only the Labor vote up, but Stan Neely's personal vote is up too.
The coal miners have forgotten about their guns.
Now that's really a dynasty, actually. Cessnock is really a dynasty because Stan Neely's father held that seat before him.
Okay, let's go now to the seat of Ermington, where Michael Photius is sitting.
Michael Photius, the Minister for Ethnic Affairs, he holds that seat with a very comfortable majority. With 71.9% of the vote counted, he's quite up there on the primary vote. And we'll just have a look at the estimate is that he'll retain it. I didn't see that he has a swing to him, a slight swing against
The Labor candidate is Richard Talbot, and he can't take this one to the courts.
NRMA. We all know Richard Talbot from the NRMA, that's right.
Indeed. Okay, now the seat of Lakemba, Labor holds with a cushion of almost 10%, but let's see how they're faring.
Lakemba is where the local candidate, Wes Davern, is retiring. He is being replaced by Tony Stewart, the ALP candidate. He should do quite well there. There was a concern about John Gorrie, the independent, in that seat because he was a disaffected local councillor there. But as Anthony seems to be shaking his head, saying he doesn't seem to have had any effect.
He's got
in that
10%
seat.
of the vote, but the Labor vote, primary vote's up 8% as well. So I mean, he really hasn't had much of an effect.
Even with Terry Lamb supporters.
Even with Terry Lamb supporters. He did a lot. Back in the 78 election, Laurie McGinty, a former member, was lost pre-selection with Nick Greiner and defeated Greiner at the election by directing preferences. I'm afraid Gorrie hasn't done a Laurie McGinty on this election.
Okay, let's have a look now at the seat of Canterbury. Another one we haven't seen all night. What's happening in Canterbury?
Canterbury's held by Kevin Moss. It's very safe again for the Labor Party. So we'll just go through it quickly. He's up there with the primary vote of 56.4%, and he will retain the seat quite easily.
A point on that, the Liberal candidate, Paul Terrett, has run for the Democrats more than a dozen times, and his best vote ever was 12%. So running for the Liberals, he's managed to triple his previous best effort for the Democrats.
Good to see, isn't it?
North Shore. North Shore is the former seat of Philip Smiles, who we just spoke to a moment ago. It's now held by Gillian Skinner. It was a heavily contested by-election last year.
We should look at the swings on this one as well.
Yes, it was a seat where the independents were considered to have a stronghold, but Gillian Skinner increased the majority hugely, and the estimate there is, of course, that she will hold it. If we just have a look at the swings and see if she has, in fact, increased her swing.
What is happening there is you've got the 40% vote for Robin Reid last time. There is no independent standing there this time. It's spread all over the place. So a third of it's gone to Labor, some to the Greens, some to the Democrats. So that seat's reverted to being state Liberal Party without having an independent.
Now to the seat of North Shore, which is held by Gillian Skinner, isn't it?
Yeah, we just had a quick look at North Shore, so it's Pipwater.
Oh, sorry.
Jim Longley. Pipwater held by Jim Longley very safely, 77.4% of the vote counted. He has by the swingometer there, he has a mild swing to him, with the estimate is that he will hold the seat, which he will.
Okay, now to the seat of the entrance, he said confidently. I think we have got the entrance this time, yes.
Which we discussed a moment ago about the ticks and crosses. Grant McBride, the ALP candidate there was some feeling that he in fact hadn't been running a very strong campaign or not a very strong local member. He seems to be doing all right though in the entrance. By the swingometer he has a slight swing towards him, and the estimate is of course that Grant McBride will hold that seat.
Slight drop on the by-election figure, but it's more or less a repeat. Again, just a little thing, the Anti-Immigrant Party got 5.4. They've run in about 15 seats and haven't directed preferences in any, but it'll be interesting to track down their primary vote in the other seats.
Tony, just on that, it seems that from our scrutiny is of the preferences that are distributed, not all of them are, it goes about 50-50.
Yeah, that's what we factored in.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at a couple more of those really tight seats now. Blue Mountains, which we've been following with interest all night and is definitely on our too hard to call list at the moment. Both sides showing confidence.
Blue Mountains, Jennifer Scott, the Liberal Party candidate, and Bob Davis, the Labor Party candidate, and of course Barry Morris there. Now, as we've seen earlier on, Barry Morris thought that most of his preferences were going to Jennifer Scott, which is the way he directed them. If we just have a look at the estimate of that seat, I suspect it's too close to call.
They're unchanged figures from last time.
They don't seem to be exactly the same as last time, yes.
I wonder if we can fare any better with the seat of Bathurst. Have we got any new figures in?
These are the same figures for Bathurst as well, but we should probably look at them.
No, well, certainly, because it's a very tight seat. This is a big Clough seat. Was, anyway. It's still possibly his, but looking a bit tight, isn't it?
It's looking very tight there if you look at the estimate with our computer. We can't call that. It's another seat which we may not know a result for by the end of the night.
On the figures that we've got from our scrutiny, is we're just ahead, but there's about 1,000 postal votes to come in, 800 pre-poll votes, and there's about 3,000 absentees as a possibility. So, I mean, that is a lot of votes yet to come in.
And do they tend to go against the Labor Party?
At the moment, on past performance, we're still looking like we'll win, but I wouldn't like to count it on that at all. Not at all. I mean, this is going to be a one that's going to depend on the votes that have been cast before the election, the ones that have been cast outside the seat. It's going to be a very interesting one to watch.
Are you both feeling a bit anxious about the outcome at this stage?
Well, it's remarkably close. Everyone has said this is going to be the close election. I've been watching polling results for weeks and observing that it was going to be a close election, but no one would have predicted it could be this close. I mean, literally, there are Bathurst, South Coast, Blue Mountains, Manly, Gladesville. In my view, they're the seats now which will decide the election, and that could take it to a minority Labor government or a majority Liberal government.
I'd also put
that range that's possible.
I put Murwillumbah still in there, but I do note that the scrutineers for the Labor Party in Murwillumbah are saying that the Jade Hurley preferences are going all over the place, different ones in different booths, so it gives the edge more to the Nats there, but I certainly wouldn't be conceding it. I'd put that on as one that is going to be counted very closely over the next few days, and it is going to be one of the ones that is going to determine who's going to be in government.
Yes, indeed.
We haven't been seeing all night tonight. I mean, some of them you haven't seen all night. We're going to give you a complete call of the board. So everyone out there who's been dying to see what's happening in their seats, now is the moment. Between them, I'm sure we'll get a good call of the board.